think there is a lot of background work that I need to explain for any particular single article. So today's agenda would just be to briefly sum up all the issues so that you can go back and do the reading. Okay? See, this is a developing issue. We will get back to this when there is substantial takeaway for our exam, both from prelims and main standpoint. As of now, we'll wait for that. Even this one, deregistering political parties and delisting political parties. What is the difference? Any idea? What is the difference between deregister and delink or delist? Sorry, not delink. Election Commission can do two things for a political party. Do you know the difference? Any idea? No idea? This is the homework. See, I'll briefly sum up. Deregister means you are no longer allowed to contest in elections. Delist means you will not be getting the status of a registered recognized political party, and you will not be getting the associated benefits like tax benefits, etc. Two different things. What is the criteria? That is the homework that I want you to do. Do we have a criteria? This is what you should be looking at. There is some legislative vacuum. RPA does not have certain provisions regarding this aspect. What aspect exactly does ECI have control upon? What is the Supreme Court judgment on this issue? Whether Election Commission of India can deregister a party or not? These are some of the things that I want you to have a look at. You can go through the post I made on the Telegram channel. Read that Hindu editorial, not editorial, explained section. All of these are explained there. After that, you can come back and see this. Yeah, Maharashtra deja vu. This is about an incident that happened in Maharashtra where one of the local leader went on to slap a local vendor who was not speaking in Marathi. Okay? The article context is this. Here you have to link it to two different areas. In GS1, which area? Which aspect can we link this issue to? Regionalism. There is something called Sons of the Soil theory. Yesterday we spoke, India's description is that we are a diverse country, right? Diversity is the fact of our country, and unity is a logical necessity. In extension to that, talk about the language as one of the diverse element of our entire canvas. See, there are many aspects of our diversity, right? Language diversity is there, regional diversity is there, cuisine diversity is there. Like this, you have many elements of that diversity which encompass that culture. Because of this identity given by language, you will have a situation, identity based on language. See, in your any traditional textbook on culture, what encompasses culture? Anyone? If you read Nitin Singhania like textbooks for art and culture ever, what are the elements that you will find under culture? When we say cultural diversity or cultural elements, which gives us an identity. What are the elements of that culture? Please be a bit louder. Please participate. If you read any textbook, I am asking what will be there in the index of that art and culture textbook. Okay, architecture. Okay, what else? Art, architecture, paintings. What else? Literature, dance, music. What else? Okay, cuisine. Is it a part of culture syllabus in art and culture? I'm just asking that part so that, say, you're actually right when you say cuisine can be a part of a culture, but I'm just confining our discussion to our traditional textbooks. You have something like 11th class NCERT fine arts textbooks, right? In this fine arts textbook, what are the elements that you will see? Sculptures, for example. I am just giving you a template. Yesterday we spoke about unity and diversity and all those aspects, right? I'm just logically extending that to culture and again bringing back to politics and polity. Okay, just let's understand. When you have any cultural elements like these, link it back to diversity aspect. For example, language. Where can you link language to there? Right? When this language and literature are combined, they give an element of diversity and identity. So, whatever elements that you see in the syllabus, when they are combined with day-to-day life, they give an identity which will have a bearing on politics. Do you actually see people fighting over architectural elements? Not much. People might fight over food, they might fight over literature sometimes, but rarely you will see art, dance, music becoming a point of contention at a mass level. So what should we take away? What should we take away from this discussion? There are some elements which keep on changing in the Indian society. There are some elements which remain constant. And out of all those elements, the ones that give an identity for politics will be the most important for policy making. This is a takeaway. Clear? So, the aspects that are often ignored in art and culture syllabus, which give us that diverse flavor to this country. Out of all those elements, the one that are seen in day-to-day life that give us an identity immediately, like language, like region differences, those cultural elements which give us an identity in day-to-day life in politics will become the focus of current affairs. So when you have this literature element, which is a result of Bhakti movement, the development of vernacular goes back to Bhakti movement. You will read about this in the NCERT textbooks. The new NCERT textbooks on Bhakti traditions, 11th or 12th class, exactly, I don't remember the textbook, which year. Themes in Indian history. Bhakti and Sufi tradition gave rise to vernacular languages. Those vernacular languages created regional identities. Those regional pockets became essential components of the larger idea of Indianness in today's world. Okay, we're just taking over from yesterday's article. So, why do people have a sense of identity? because it gives them collective bargaining power. Language or any cultural element becomes an identity and a tool for mobilization in politics. That is good for local level politicians, but dangerous for the whole identity of India, because India is a union of states. It is not just a collection of states where it's like a contract between all the states. And you should not forget there is Article 19 also, which gives the right to freedom of movement. And it becomes all the more difficult if this regional identity becomes a mental barrier for people to move and converse freely. Language should add, an element of beauty to this country rather than act as a barrier. Like we discussed the other day, my take on any cultural element. We spoke the other day, right? Like, let's say, for example, if a group of friends are talking about any cultural aspect, let's say someone from Kolkata and someone from Hyderabad are here, or let's say, for example, Dindigal, Hyderabad, Lucknow, Kolkata, and Ambur. People from these places come and sit and have a discussion that this is the best biryani in the world. There's no point of debate there. There are just different flavors. You would often see that, someone from their region coming forward and say that this is the best version of that thing. You may or may not like it, because the emotion with which you grew up are personal to you. Just like how we say mother tongue, the idea of a mother's love is very personal. We cannot sit and debate that, my mother's love is better than your mother's love, etc. It's as foolish as this. The minute we realize that we can respect diversity, just like this, just like how we respect each other's tongue, there is a reason why we call it mother tongue. Any cultural element, if there is an attitude of respect towards it, whether you like it or not, whether the numerical strength is there or not, numerical strength and bargaining power belongs to the domain of politics, not to the domain of culture. When the threshold is crossed, this is what happens. And that's a threat to the unity of this country, and we need to stop that. Apply this line of thought not just for a language element, but anything that creates an identity driven politics is good for negotiation, not for threat. And this is a threat to the sovereignty of this country from within, and we need to stop that. There are better ways to negotiate for cultural assertion. And this is not that way. Threatening local people who came from elsewhere. Mumbai is a place, just like how New York in US is a place where it is a cultural hub for people from different parts of the world. Mumbai in India is providing an economic opportunity owing to its historical legacy. And it cannot be a place where people are felt threatened. India and its values are at threat there, so we need to do better. And the same goes to any place, whether it is Bangalore, whether it is, we have to respect. So we should not be calling it Bangalore to respect the local sentiment. We should all try to be respectful towards the local sentiments also. So Bangalore is something that is anglicized, so they would prefer Bengaluru. People from Mumbai would not want to call Mumbai as Bombay. Similarly, Calcutta is now Kolkata. We are all trying to respect the local sentiments there. That's our respect towards the culture. The locals should not be mocked. They should not be made fun of. And when that happens, an identity-driven politics becomes stronger and stronger. And it is a responsibility of every individual to respect this cultural element. And the whole idea of democracy is therefore linked to this culture. linked to society, and that creates a mobilizing force for politics. And to break this vicious cycle of identity driven politics, you have something called Article 14, right to equality, as an antidote to this identity driven politics. So regionalism, which creates this sons of the soil theory, stems from its cultural element, manifests in politics, and seeks an identity in politics which will threaten Article 1 and therefore seeks a solution through Article 14. This is the lens in which you can look at this article. Okay? Please go back and read this. Yeah, this one. Long story short, the Delhi government decided that they will phase out vehicles which are older than 10 to 15 years, 10-year-old diesel run vehicles and 15-year-old petrol vehicles. They decided that they will have one AI driven software which will identify the vehicles which are not complying, and they'll stop fuel to those vehicles. And they will maintain a database called Vahan, which will automatically stop the access to the fuel. Either they will have to recycle them or sell it to different places because they were not able to contain particulate matter emissions, greenhouse gas emissions in Delhi. This is a fix that they proposed, but it comes with a dilemma. 10 to 15-year-old vehicles are not probably used by people in the same way as, let's say, a cab driver. You might have a 10-year-old vehicle which barely ran for like 15-20,000 kilometers also. It's quite possible. So should we take into consideration the wear and tear or not? That's question number one. Question number two. There are a lot of people who depend on cabs, for example. And if you ask them to just remove these cabs from the circulation in the traffic, etc., how will they cope? Because it's pretty much possible that their entire livelihood depends on that, and economic shock cannot actually be taken care of. Because if you want to, let's say for example, if you want to promote e-vehicles, previously we have had schemes like FAME. Which ministry came up with this? Yes, e-vehicles, EVs. Is it MeitY? Because it is E, right? E for electronics. Is it electronics or electric? Is it electronic vehicle or electric vehicle? Electronic. Electric. What is the difference between electronics and electric? Any electrical engineers here? What is the difference between electronics and electric? ECE. Okay, go back and check once, everyone. Electrical and electronics. You should know, the next time you use this word e-vehicle, you should not have a doubt if it is an electronic vehicle or an electric vehicle. Does an electric vehicle have electronics or vice versa? E-vehicles, do they have electronics? I mean, if you, let's say there are two options: electric vehicle, electronic vehicle. So does an electronic vehicle have electric elements? No. Okay, let's say the other way around. If an electric vehicle is there, does it have electronic components? So what should we call? Is it an electric vehicle or an electronic vehicle? Go back and check once. Okay, FAME, which ministry? I'll give some options. MeitY, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Commerce, Heavy Industries. Fifth option, all the above. Yes? How many of you are confused between 4 and 5? No clue at all? How many of you have no clue at all? How many of you wrote prelims before? Should know this. Anyway, another homework. Yeah, so this is the gist of this article. The Nation on Canvas. This is about Krishan Khanna, who is a famous artist known for his contributions to the post-independent era. Long story short, what do I take away from this article? Because this is more like a tribute to Mr. Khanna and his works. What I want you to focus from this article is there is a tendency of UPSC to sometimes extrapolate the art movements from, let's say, the 20th century, just before the independence, let's say from around 1900s or let's say around 1880s. And this is the time period till 1947. There is a possibility, very rare, but I just want you to at least have one name in your mind, one or two names, to talk about the cultural tradition and the development of the art tradition. So from this era, like, you will see modern art, modern paintings having a flavor of nationalism, especially during the Swadeshi movement. There is something called the Bengal School of Art. Bengal School of Art and Nationalism. This is a separate chapter which was recently introduced by NCERT. I want you guys to read this. There are painters like Abhindranath Tagore, Nandalal Bose, who added a lot to the national movement through their art. What is art? It's nothing but a cultural expression of an identity. And it reflects, it's like a mirror of the society of that time period. If you look at any art form through this lens, you will see how it will reflect the social realities. So obviously, any painter of the partition times would reflect the themes of that partition era. And you would see many other artists like M.F. Hussain, etc., who were considered to be representatives of this post-independent era art tradition. So if you were to include these points in the analysis and at least write as a conclusion for your art and culture, and to show how the tradition from the pre-independent era continued even in the post-independent era as a reflection to the society, using names like this and their works can add a lot of value. So this entire article, even if you read it casually, the larger theme that I want you to take away is how art or any art form, literature, painting, poetry, reflects the society of that time. And this is what I want you to take away even in the art and culture aspect also. Why are we reading history? Why are we reading art and culture? Because it reflects the social realities of that time period. We get to learn about the society from the time. And if you look at art and culture like this, if you take a look at the content of a literary piece from a particular time period, you will get to see what is the society designed like at that time period. And the takeaway for art and culture is this: history is nothing but a spatio-temporal analysis of a society. And I keep on telling this: spatio-temporal. Space means geography. In a particular geography, how is the society like? How is it evolving? Let's say, for example, if you take the case of Hyderabad, how has Hyderabad as a city and its culture evolved over a period of time? That is the spatial aspect of it. Temporal analysis, according to the time period. Across the time period, how did the culture or the geography of a region evolve? If you combine both of them in a particular geography at a particular point of time, how is the society like? If you document it, that becomes history. Sometimes history is not as straightforward as you think it is. It is reconstructed through various sources, your coins, your literary sources, your artifacts, arts, architecture, sculpture elements, what is engraved on the sculpture, language, literature, the script behind it. So if you have curious mind to look at art and culture like this, pick up the elements from different aspects of art and culture, you would travel back in time and understand the society at that time. Probably, if you go to Ajanta and Ellora caves, you are going back to the 5th and 6th century, where the colors, the choice of colors, the materials used, the themes depicted on those walls reflect the dominant rhetoric of that time period. The Jataka tales from Buddhism, you wouldn't find them in modern times as commonly as, let's say, for example, any modern themes of Ramayana or Mahabharata, or even for that matter, modern art like graffiti. Why did the painters of that era choose those themes only? There must be some reason. What is that reason? That curiosity reconstructs history. That curiosity gives us patterns. That curiosity tells us a story and lessons associated with it that will have a bearing on today's India. And that is the lens through which you have to look at history. Okay? So that is the takeaway from this. And this, his spiritual home, it's about Dalai Lama, the importance of how India has become a cradle of refugees when they sought a home. It's been like 66 years since Dalai Lama came into India, settled in McLeodganj, which is like the cultural hub for all the Tibetan refugees, Dharamshala, the spiritual capital of Tibetan refugees. So this is the takeaway. Nothing important here. It will take a city. This is written by the CEO of Niti Aayog. Is it visible, everyone? Okay. This is written by Mr. Amitabh Kant, who is the CEO of Niti Aayog. We had an elaborate discussion on urbanization. New students, please go back to my YouTube channel. You will have a 360-degree view on how urbanization should be viewed from GS 1, 2, 3 and 4 angle in an hour-long lecture. I've already explained that. I don't think there is a necessity for me to go through that again, but I'll briefly sum up. What is this issue about? See, the future of India is in cities. Pick up 15 cities that this nation already has and create forward and backward linkages. What does this word forward and backward linkage mean? See, we are talking about value chain. Value chain refers to a term in economics where different stages of production, stage 1, 2, 3, if you have various stages in production, in India, different cities become hubs for different places of production, stages of production for different components across the world. For example, take the case of pharma. In western part of the country, and also in Hyderabad, we have these pharma hubs. So either there or in Gujarat, we will see these pharma hubs. But these pharma hubs are just one of the stages in the entire value chain of production of these drugs. Not necessarily the entire production, but maybe one of the stages or a few of the stages. India is yet to have a stage where for global commodities, we have all the stages of production housed in one centers. Because either it lacks infrastructure or the cost part of it or the skill part of it. What are the four factors of production? Land, labor, capital, enterprise. What do you mean by enterprising ability? It involves all the things that requires for setting up a business and creating profits out of it. You're adding value, that is the GVA, gross value added. Your enterprise is linked to the gross value added aspect, and your enterprise depends on science and technology. Because the more and more science and technology is growing, the efficiency part of that also increases exponentially. And this is linked through a concept called ICOR, incremental capital output ratio. That means the amount of extra capital you invest to make one extra unit of the same product, that should come down. If you're investing more capital for one extra unit, it just means that we are not efficient. And to reach the stage of efficiency, we need to come to a place where we are spending on R&D. Even if you spend on R&D, if the cities do not have forward linkages, that is the infrastructure to connect the urban, suburban and the other global markets, what's the point? So it is not a isolated phenomenon. Traditionally, cities have been the engines of growth. But it cannot just be a hub where, at this point of time, if we are considering the needs of this country, cities as they are functioning cannot just be back offices of the Western world. It's time that we talk about Atmanirbharta, and that comes only when you work on every single sector equally. And cities are places where this forward and backward linkages are fused together to drive that economic engine. What kind of a city do we need? A city that creates this backward and forward linkages, that is environmentally stable, that doesn't have the threat of, a place like Mumbai. Like the other day, there was this incident where some local politician slapped, a street vendor. You have to feel safe. It should be gender inclusive. It should be inclusive in general. The class divide, that should be handled. The rich and the poor should coexist in bare minimum, at least the bare minimum facilities one is expected to have. Dharavi is a world's largest slum, but do you actually know the cost of real estate there? Why do you think the people in Dharavi do not want to move out of that place? The cost of real estate is in crores, hundreds of crores. It's so expensive because of the centrality to Mumbai's economy. At least Dharavi offers opportunities because of the economic opportunities that are there in Mumbai. But what about other cities? Is it okay to have that kind of lopsided development, a leapfrog development, as I would call it? Leapfrog as in, you have one aspect of city, then some political party and its people come into a power and they develop this part of the city. What about this part? It's left. And suddenly there is a disproportionate growth in one direction and this part of the city is completely ignored. Take any city for that example. I'm not talking about this city or that city. Do you have a planned development per se? Take the case of Bangalore, take the case of Hyderabad, take the case of Bangalore. The core part of Bangalore or Bengaluru is, let's say, you have the central part. To move from this part of the city to, let's say, this part, at least Hyderabad has a ring road. But Bangalore is so unplanned in some elements that you have to move through square grids. Imagine lakhs of people coming out of IT corridors in the evening. You spend the rest of the evening figuring out how to go home. I'm not actually kidding. There is one time where I did not have a vehicle in Bangalore and I was supposed to go to my cousin's place, which is like 4 kilometers. There's this place called Marthalli. Okay. If you had to go from one place called Marthalli to another place like Vijayanagar, which is like 7 to 8 kilometers away, I did not have a bike, so I took this Rapido service. Do you know how much time it took for me to reach these 8 kilometers? 2 hours 40 minutes. I would rather walk. Those 8 kilometers I would have reached faster. This is because of lopsided development. Something called leapfrog development, unplanned. A city cannot have islands of prosperity in a sea of poverty. Because you will not have peaceful life there. Same is the case with Hyderabad. I'm not blaming any one particular city. Same is the case with the National Capital Region. It's better, slightly better. NCR is slightly better in terms of fusing different economic regions. You have Faridabad, you have Noida, you have Gurgaon. All these are integrated with the core National Capital Region thanks to the metro and the corridor development. But the life is not, comfortable even in Delhi. In fact, it's just the opposite. Because it's again not well planned, not planned enough to contain the ecological footprint of that region. Same thing is happening with Hyderabad. You have western part of the city that is expanding. This is Hyderabad. City is expanding in this direction where the other parts are probably here. If this length represents the extent to which Hyderabad is being developed. It started with areas like Banjara Hills, Jubilee Hills. Then it went towards Madhapur. Then it went towards, further it went towards High-Tech City. Then Gachibowli, Kondapur. Now it is moving towards this area. Like Kokapet, Tellapur, etc. And now you have this part of the city growing like Rajendra Nagar, which is connecting from here. At least, okay, we have a ring road. But imagine the plight of people staying in this corridor, where all the IT offices are, located, and they have this illusion that if they are in close vicinity to the office, they'll reach home faster. When 1 lakh cars come out in a span of 1 hour, what are you expecting? This is the data taken from Ola or Uber. I don't remember the exact source where I read this, but 1 lakh cars come out between 7 and 8 in this region. Have you ever been to this Kondapur area in that time period? Between 7 to 8. You would rather walk. No matter where you are in that area, you would rather walk. You will reach home faster. That's not the kind of development we need. It needs better planning. And all of this was already discussed there. Moving on. The most important articles for the day is this issue. And this one. And of course, this small aspect. This will have a bearing. See, homework is mostly in this page. till now you have listened to how we are integrating different aspects of our syllabus to the existing articles. But today, in this articles, you will see core economy concepts. I'll briefly explain the context and give you some homework. Please take this homework seriously. Whatever homework I gave was very impromptu, depending on your expressions. If your expressions are blank, you will get more homework. If you act better, you will get even more homework. So, Sebi. Firstly, you have to know, what is Sebi? What is Sebi? This is the first question you need to know. In your basics of economy, you will see market forces or financial institutions. What is a market? It's a place where you connect a buyer, seller. So, in a capital market, you are connecting a person who would want to buy capital or sell capital or trade, buy and sell capital. See, money itself is money. What will you sell money? What will you do with money and sell it? There must be something we are missing, right? Therefore, let's understand what that simple aspect is. See, you have something called futures and options trading. It's like taking a bet. A certain commodity will either rise in price or fall in price. You're taking a bet. The detailed concept, maybe we'll have to take it up in a traditional economy class, but I don't have the time to explain all of that. I'll just briefly explain what happened here. There is something called F&O, futures and options, and derivative trading. There is a company in US. That company has manipulated the system and used it to their advantage. So the overall funda is, we were wronged. Retail investors were duped. How, why, what, we'll see that. Every system needs a regulator. For financial markets, Sebi is that regulator. And most often, Sebi has always been that player where, just like in the old movies, when the entire crime has been done, you would see police visiting in the last scene, right? Sebi is more or less like that. But things are changing. Sebi came into existence after Harshad Mehta scam. Even if it was there, the mandate was obviously not clear because the scam wouldn't have happened. So, we have had situations where the regulatory bodies like Sebi were mostly reactive than proactive. They reacted to market conditions, and that situation is changing now. How? Let me explain. First, to explain this, you need to understand the concept of arbitrage. Let's say you buy a commodity. You are a trader, for example. You are a businessman. You buy something from a wholesale market for 100 rupees. And from there, you get it to your local region, add some transport cost and some margin, and sell it at 120. This is the difference, and that difference is the arbitrage. Okay? This concept is very important, arbitrage. Then we will talk about another concept, Nifty. Nifty is, it's like a bag. Even if you don't know economy basics, that's fine. Just visualize this. It's like a bag wherein you pick up components of the top 50 companies in terms of their economic resilience. You pick up pieces and bits of that and put it in this box. This box becomes something called exchange traded fund. So what is there in this box is pretty much stable. Mutual funds, for example, same concept. But in exchange traded funds, index funds, In index funds, Nifty is like an index. Nifty stands for National 50. It's a list which comprises of the top 50 companies of that stock market. Okay. So if you pick up bits and pieces of each of that company, let's say you have Reliance, you have Tata, you have TCS, companies like this, HDFC, which are like the top performing companies in India in terms of market capitalization or economic performance, various other indicators. Not really important for us. You pick up these components. Let's say if the cost of Reliance is 1000 rupees, for example, and you do not have 1000, you only have 100 rupees. So to that proportion, you will put it in this basket. That is the concept of mutual fund. If you are linking this mutual fund to an index, it becomes index based mutual fund. And you have another concept called ETF, which I will not get into. So the point is, let's say for example, if this list of Nifty is not stable, it keeps on changing from time to time. Let's say you are tracking the movements and you have first-hand information that on July 1st, you will have a new entrant into, let's say for example, a company like, let's say Kotak Mahindra Bank is entering into this list, and a company like, let's say for example, Asian Paints is removed from the list. Obviously the demand for this will rise, right? Because this is much more stable. What if it is entering on July 1st and you have information on June 30 and you bought a huge chunk where the markets will rise by percentage, like say even if it rose by 10% in a single day, you invest 1000 crores, how much are you making? Huge money. How are they getting access to this? Through something called algorithmic trading. It is probably not illegal because Sebi may or may not have regulations on it. For this reason, Sebi has some blanket phrases where if you are using the existing market infrastructure to distort the market, you will be penalized. It is in that context this US firm has been penalized. This is what you need to know. Algorithmic trading, Nifty, how market has been distorted, how Sebi is changing its stance from just being a reactive thing to a proactive regulatory body and fixing those problems. This is the first news that you need to take away. Next up, Vietnam. See, Vietnam has got some excess concessions through tariffs. You know the transactional diplomacy of US, right? So US was negotiating harder for some deals. Vietnam gave it. In return, it got market access. The advantage is it can capture market for some extra cost. Smaller countries have this advantage, and India will lose the market if we don't act. That is the funda here. Let's say there is a agricultural commodity that is moving from Vietnam to US. Just by reduction of tariff, it makes Vietnam products much more competitive. So the difference will be offset there. Even if US is imposing taxes on tariffs on Vietnamese products, the market advantage it gets in comparison to countries like India will be high. So smaller countries will be having an advantage here, and we have to learn from that opportunity is what the article is saying. Next up, NDB. You have an organization called BRICS, and it has this NDB. The homework that I want you to do is, it was formed in 2015. What are the countries which are a part of NDB and why are they important? Recently, some other members were also added. Who are the members? Why are they added? Go back and check. What our finance minister is saying here is that just Just like how World Bank is not only involved in giving money, it is also overseeing the projects. It is also taking care of how that money is spent to empower people in that region. Just because you give money is not enough. You have to also take care that that money is utilized, right? Unless and until you have the necessary skills to utilize that money, you will not be able to use it. That is the focus of a development bank and a financing institution. A financing institution will just stop at giving money. A development bank will also try to empower people. World Bank is a development bank. NDB, even if the name says so, has not been really focusing on development. So finance minister says that we have to focus on taking that extra initiative of empowering people of these regions, because you are seeing a trend where global institutions like World Bank are not working to their fullest potential. We are seeing the rising trend of multilateralism, meaning regional pockets like BRICS, SAARC, etc., they are taking prominence. That is the fun of this article. And here you have something called corporate average fuel efficiency, which is very important for prelims. CAFE. See, what is this? It is a metric that is set by our government to ensure greenhouse gas emissions are not emitted. Lighter cars and heavier cars, both of them have same target. So lighter cars are polluting less, heavier cars are polluting more, and you give same norms to them. What is the point? You have to give proportionate responsibility, right? In a way, you are disincentivizing the mass market manufacturers who are actually contributing to less greenhouse gas emissions, and you are letting go of the heavier ones who are polluting more. This distortion needs to be reset, is what this article is saying. So what are you supposed to take away from this? The phase 2 of this CAFE norms recently started, and it's like a critique on how our policy and our agenda of Panchamrit strategy. You know what is Panchamrit strategy? I already explained this. Where did we start this? Forgot. What is Conference of Parties of UNFCCC? Environment Basics. Forgot. Perfect. Go back. UNFCCC. Homework. Climate change concept. UNFCCC concept. Conference of Parties. Kyoto Protocol. Paris Deal. Glasgow Summit. Please revise this. I already told you to go back and revise this. In that context, what is the role played by this news? Put this news under that larger framework. Okay? Yeah, this one. Remittances on tax. Tax on remittance. What is a remittance? Let's say you have a family member staying in the US. They want to send money to India. What if you are taxed for that? Thanks to our POTUS, President of the United States, Donald Trump, is planning to impose a remittance tax. So how will it impact Indian economy? This article says the impact is not going to be as bad as we think it is. Okay? This is important for understanding the concept of FPI. How is this remittance linked to our balance of payments? This is the homework you need to see. Where will this remittance come in the balance of payments? Go back and check. Okay? This is the prelims level info you need to know. Whenever you see any headlines like this, automatically it should be mapped to the static topic. That's when this will make more sense. If you are not able to do that, you will continue to struggle. See, Delhi's fuel ban, all of that is already done. Here, how astronauts feast on ISS, International Space Station. Homework again. What is International Space Station? Point number 1. Point number 2. What is Mission Gaganyaan? Please write down. What is Mission Gaganyaan? International Space Station is a project by which countries? Did some country withdraw recently? Which country? Go back and check. Why did it withdraw? And because of that withdrawal, did it give India an opportunity? These are the things you need to know. And before all of that, I want you to, any fresher who is just starting, this is how I want you to put this article. In GS3, you will see Science and Technology. In that, one of the folder can be Space. In the space, you can talk about ISRO or India's contribution to the space. And under that, you will see partnerships. So in partnerships, you will see various countries. For example, NASA, European Space Agency, Japan. What projects do we have with them in partnerships? And how each of this is for prelims. For mains, it can be a different ball game, which we will deal with later. Let's start with prelims, right? When you are noting down things, note them like this. What are the other subheadings that are there in ISRO? Indigenous projects. Within ISRO, you will go to the ISRO website. What are the various projects of ISRO, broadly speaking? Okay. These are the things that you need to know. Clear? So what is this article about? It's about how people consume food. What are the kind of food items? When you are in microgravity, the biggest impact is on your muscle and bone. So the food that you consume should be first addressing that aspect. On this mission, we have our captain, Shubhanshu Shukla. The main contribution of Mr. Shukla is that he's a part of that study on how food should be consumed in microgravity environments. So what kind of food do you have to package? Because, okay, why are we even doing all of this? In a future where there is no food security, we need to optimize our resources. So these are experiments for that. How to survive in low yield environments when there are so many constraints. These are the experiments that will teach us those aspects. That is what you need to take away from this. How Ramleela is an enduring representation of Indianness in Trinidad. Where will you link this article to? GS2. Contributions of diaspora. International relations, contributions of diaspora. Link it to world history in GS1, GS2, international relations, contributions of diaspora, and GS3, how you can use them as economic tools or economic agency for our growth. Okay? Okay, that's it for today, I would say. See you. Again, a gentle reminder, whenever you are reading newspaper, when you are sitting through these sessions and listening to whatever I'm trying to say, it's like a training session on your thought process. You might feel that we are repeating some ideas again and again. And it is very much intentional because there is a limit to how much your mind can consume. Thought patterns can be similar. It is one way of making our preparation efficient so that you don't have all these scattered thoughts. Imagine if you were not having a structured thought process. You would be chasing random information. Imagine summarizing every single article that you read and trying to revise it without a framework. how inefficient and how difficult it would have been. Develop the natural ability to use any single article like a modular piece. You can fit it everywhere and anywhere as you wish. You get to control where it goes, not the other way around. If information is controlling your thought and not the other way around, this exam is going to be like a nightmare. This is the fundamental fix you all need to do. Fix your thought first, information will follow, not the other way around. That is the intent of these classes, not to summarize articles for you. There are many people who can summarize those articles. Like, if you have to take something away from this, it's about a daily execution that really matters. And unless and until you participate in this activity, it's like intellectual entertainment. And I don't want to be a source of entertainment here. We are here for a purpose. That purpose is to crack this exam, and let's be very clear and focused about that. I expect you to spend some time, 1 hour, 2 hours. You will see the transformation in 5 to 6 months. Thought process that has been trained for decades together. That is how it was throughout your schooling. You get some summarized information, you by heart it, and you just vomit it in your exam, and then just forget it. Even the candidates who score 90% forget 90% of what they wrote, because they don't understand, they just reproduced it. So do not take your degrees seriously. It's history. Even if you're a topper, even if you're an average student, below average student, it's history. We cannot be prisoners of our history, right? Do not take mental satisfaction in the fact that you're a topper. If you're a topper of your college, just a gentle reminder that there are thousands of colleges in this country, and lakhs of students who might have UPSC is trying to tap into their potential and pick the cream out of it. The cream of that so-called toppers will be the ones who develop the natural ability to think and ask the right questions. It's not about how much you remember. It's about how much you understood and having the ability to ask the right question. Nobody is going to serve you information ready-made. They will serve you the information, but not the thought process and the skill. It is something that you need to earn, and that requires daily execution. Not just sitting in front of any YouTube lecture, etc., which is probably like a intellectual entertainment, nothing more than that. Because I've seen a lot of people who have been inconsistent here and there, like they feel good after this class. What are you taking away? Are you mapping your outcomes? You understood the story, but how do you strengthen it? How do you cement it in your mind? Unless you give it the time it requires. See, if you had actually done the homework, all the themes that are important for different aspects of the syllabus are already covered, if you realize. Fundamental rights, done. DPSP, done. Fundamental duties, done. Parliamentary system, parliamentary committees, effective functioning, done. Come to GS3. GVA, GDP, concepts, done. Logistics sector, industry, agriculture, done. IPR, yesterday and today, done. Sorry, day before yesterday and yesterday, done. What are we left with? Internal security, science and technology, then cyber security and the other aspects, international relations also, basics are done. Governance is yet to be done, geography, history. In entire 2 months, you had a framework at your disposal and you did not do anything about it. Are you even realizing that these classes are structured in such a way that you are finishing the syllabus in multiple rounds? GS2 syllabus has been covered, GS3 syllabus has been covered, and you will feel that sense of completion only when you go back and do your work. This is the fastest way to complete the syllabus, and yet there's no response from a lot of you guys. Probably because you did not understand and realize it. Now that you have, the advantage of understanding it and the necessity for doing it again and again. I'm reminding here, you will be taken seriously only when you show up and act. In the absence of that action, nobody is going to be of any help. 2 months, you've had 2 months to cover 2 large chunks of the syllabus. Majority of, we've already discussed even many aspects like GS1 society also. We have done caste when we are talking about Telangana caste census. We have talked about regionalism. We have talked about urbanization. We have talked about demographic studies and demographic dividend. Are these all alien concepts that I'm talking? No, right? I gave you a structure. I gave you a thought process. I gave you how to interlink it with other subjects. At least the first reading should have been over by now. Think about it. Okay? You have an opportunity to relook at your entire preparation. Are you doing enough? Or you think it should be done like a separate subject where you pick up a magazine, by heart it, and then condense it and then figure out what to do with it? The only thing that you will be doing with condensing large pieces of information to shorter ones is to sell them to your newspaper recycler. Train your thought, the most powerful weapon that you have at your disposal. If you do not trust yourself, why should anyone else trust you? Have faith in your ability to think, internalize. You need not have the same pace as your fellow competitors. Don't compete with your peers. Compete with yourself. Get 1% better every day. Atomic habits. Things will be better. Exponentially better. People who have been consistent, some of you guys are consistent, at least you can see the transformation in your own thought process. Coupled with that, put those thoughts into action, you will see the actual progress. Okay? Sorry for the muft gyan at the end of the lecture. I thought just maybe clarifying it will help you. I think you have a context now, right? All the best.